What has always driven me is figuring out the unique formula for each of my customers' success.
Do you think like a CRM, like a HubSpot, would be able to do the project management piece you're talking about? Or is it missing things you need?
So you have to provide the entire illustration. So it has to be the beach scene plus the beach bag, rather than just the beach bag and a picture of the beach.
Rachelle Copeland is the founder and CEO of Porte Lux, a company known for bringing innovative fashion and accessory designs to the global market. With deep expertise in handbags, small leather goods, she has led teams in design, merchandising, and product development, and trend forecasting to help retailers and brands grow through unique and successful accessory programs.
I have looked into tools that can help with email as well, because I have an overwhelming amount of email every day. But ultimately, I didn't feel comfortable with allowing somebody to look at all my email, because if we could figure out a tool that can integrate both of them, keep track of production, keep track of customers, and then build some automation into that, that would be amazing.
The tools are getting better, but the AIs are not exceptional at math. They are language models at the moment.
Right. No, I found major mistakes in a project where, I gave dimensions and I spent 3 hours trying to.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the AI for Business Owners podcast. I am your host, Jeff Torello. Joining me today, my guest is Rachelle Copeland. Rachelle, tell the folks a little bit about you, maybe some history, etc. Tell us what you're about.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for having me here today. I am Rachelle Copeland. I am the owner of Porte Lux. We are a private label handbag and accessory company. I always had a passion for fashion from a really early age. And what I love to do is design and produce handbags and accessories in a way that is seamless for our customers and help them grow.
Very cool. How long have you been doing that itself directly?
So I started in the private label business, working for some of the biggest private label companies shortly after I graduated from college, and went on to start my own company in 2003. It was a handbag and accessory company called Alexis Hudson, and had that for about 8 years, and then went on to start my own private label handbag and accessory company, missing working with different brands and retailers and coming up with this unique formula for their success, and kind of went back to my roots.
Okay, that's cool. Well, I don't know anything about fashion, so I have to ask a couple questions.
Yeah.
Because I just need, I don't know what I'm talking about. But when you say
This
private
is perfect
label.
because I barely know AI, so we'll help each other out.
Great. We're going to have a heck of a conversation. It's good. When you say private label, what I think that means, right, is you manufacture and put someone's brand name on it and then they sell it as theirs. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. So we collaborate with our customers. Some want a lot of help with design. Some have design departments. So we start with the initial sketch all the way through product development, cost engineering, and produce it on time, great quality, under their label. So it's either a global brand label or a retailer brand label.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So here's the part I didn't realize. So you, with respect to your company, represent manufacturing as well. You're not just doing design. Like, in other words, that we'll say it as a single source. So that someone can come to you, you can work on the design for them. Oh, it looks gorgeous. And then you can make 20,000 for them or whatever that, I don't know what the numbers are, but that's conceptually. Is that true?
Yes. We are full service from first sketch to final delivery and everything in between, which there's a lot in between that you need to make sure you're hitting the right margins, you're developing the product in the right way, developing exclusive materials. There's a lot that goes into it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Look, I'll tell you, when I heard private label with, my neophyte brain, I was like, well, they just do the design and then they outsource it to someone, et cetera, and they get made, and hopefully it's work. I know you know your business and I don't, but it sounds much better that you take care of the manufacturing too. Sorry.
Yeah. We like
Might
to
be
take,
intuitive to you, but it was a surprise.
yeah, we like to take the load off of our partners and help out in the entire process.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you've actually been doing that, it sounds like, for quite a while. It's not something you started in the last year or two.
No, I've been in this business for many decades.
Okay, great. Okay, here's a weird question. You don't have to take long on this one, but do you have your own personal custom brand handbags?
I don't anymore, but my first company was a branded handbag and accessory company.
Okay. Do you make one for Rachelle just because you want your own unique thing? Just like a one-off?
No, I'm so busy making product for other customers that I don't have time to make one for myself.
Is at least the bag you use or the bags that you use designed by you?
Of course. Of course.
Excellent. Great. Okay. That's cool. I like that. You can carry it around and people are like, I like that. And you can say, I designed it. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. It's fun.
That's got to be fun. Okay. Theoretically, this is about AI, so I guess we should talk about AI a little bit. How did you get, in this particular case, from fashion and custom stuff to AI? What are you doing? What are you looking at? What are you thinking about? Why is AI intriguing to you?
Yeah. So, like I had mentioned previously, what has always driven me is figuring out the unique formula for each of my customers' success. And it really is unique to each customer. And in this ever changing world, I'm realizing that I need AI to help me in this process to work smarter, to work more efficiently, and really keep up with what's going on in the world. And there's a lot of different programs out there, and I'm trying to navigate it. And so I'm hoping you can help me.
I'm sure we can get you at least some assistance for sure. Let's just talk a little bit about your current journey. So, like, did you use ChatGPT first? Like, what's your first introduction to AI? And what was your original impression? Did you think it would really help? Or were you kind of like, this is a fad? Like, what? Tell that sort of intro story a little bit.
Yeah, my first, which I think is probably very common for many, was ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I still use ChatGPT, and it has been a learning curve as well. I've definitely learned how to prompt it better, and
Good.
actually go back and tell ChatGPT, no, I didn't like that. This is the way I changed it. And,
Sure.
so it's a continuous learning curve, I guess, for both of us.
Good.
And I am still using it, and it is helpful. I do find that I always have to go back and change things, not in my own voice. And so I don't like how formal it is a lot, even though I tell it to be informal. So it kind of a starting point for me. That's how I use it as,
Okay.
this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And then I go from there and fine tune it.
Okay. Makes sense. Just a thought that strikes me as we're talking. There is a capability in ChatGPT to make what's called a custom GPT.
I
And
have done that.
okay, have you done a Rachelle?
Yes.
And what did you give the custom Rachelle GPT a whole bunch of your writings, documents, other stuff so that it knows you a little and knows how to talk like you?
No. So that's a great
Okay.
suggestion. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. So what you can do is take what you and I would refer to as writing samples, but they're probably not going to be handwriting. But, anything that you've written, especially longer form stuff, and then a bunch of emails, and load that into the custom GPT as documents. And then you would tell the custom GPT, your digital Rachelle, and I want you to use the sample writing, etc., for style and linguistic tone and pacing and other things. When I ask you questions, I want you to answer as Rachelle.
Okay.
And you
And I
make
do
that
that
your system prompt.
in the profile section, or I do that just in the regular ChatGPT chat.
You make a custom GPT, and that's where you load the documents, and that's where you give it a system prompt. So just inside ChatGPT, you make a custom GPT for yourself. It's a feature in the UI. And then you'll just load that up and start asking it questions. You might not want to call it Rachelle. It's sometimes weird to talk to yourself that way. But so, make it your assistant and give him or her a name. Doesn't matter, right? It can be Kevin. It can be Mimi. It doesn't matter. But then you can say to ChatGPT, hey, Mimi, format a response to this as Rachelle. And it'll be better because it'll have the writing samples and content. Now, I don't want you to think that that'll be perfect. It won't be perfect. You probably still have to edit, but you may edit less. The other thing that you might find is that if you tell ChatGPT to be creative, and I'll talk about how to do that, you might find it says things that you may not have said, but you kind of like, oh, I think that's kind of neat. I'll take that, and maybe you tweak it, maybe you don't. So there's a way to do that. There's a setting within the custom GPT. There'll be a setting called temperature. It'll be labeled that, but it doesn't mean anything if you're not a data scientist. But it's a value between 0 and 1. Okay, but closer to 1 will tell the LLM be creative and don't worry so much about facts. That's what 1 means. And closer to 0 means don't invent anything. If you don't know the answer, just don't answer. So if I wanted, like, just as an example to give you an idea of what this flavor feels like, if I wanted to create a fictional novel, I would probably take the temperature and set it to like 0.8. And then I would ask it, hey, create a scene. And maybe I'm making a Sherlock Holmes, whatever. I create a scene and here's the thing. And it would be creative. If, on the other hand, I was trying to have it help me write a nonfiction, let's say a math book, I don't know, whatever, I'd probably set the temperature at 0.2, right? I don't want it to invent anything. Don't make new symbols. Don't invent new math. Just do the right thing. And so I don't know if that helps you. What you'll see is most of the time, most chats by default are set at around 0.6.
Okay.
They lean a little towards creative, but they try to stay somewhat grounded. And I've often found that if you like bump that up to 0.7, 0.75, you get a little bit more creative answers as long as you're willing to deal with, sometimes that's an elephant with a mouse suit on. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but that's the creativity part, right?
Okay, interesting. It'd be interesting to ask the same question at different temperatures.
Exactly. And that's exactly how you'll dial in. That's right. You got it right.
Yeah.
You got it. Ask the same question 4 different chats and just change that around and say, I don't like 0.2.
Yeah. Okay, great.
So,
And there's probably different scenarios that different temperatures work better for, and so that's
completely.
part of the learning curve as well.
And if you actually end up liking the idea of a custom GPT, I'll tell you that you can then expand that a little bit with personas. And personas can be used a couple different ways. Let's just quickly talk about it. You can just prompt a persona and ask a question. So you can say, and I think I've talked about this on the podcast once or twice before, you can say, I want you to be Albert Einstein, and I want you to answer this question talking to a group of, 8-year-old science students. And then you say, hey, tell me why curiosity is important as a scientist. And what you'll get back is a very accurate, really part of inspiring response most of the time. But it will flavor it, sprinkle it with what you would relate to as Albert Einstein kind of vibe. Sometimes it throws a little bit of German in there to give you the sense that you're talking to someone who primarily spoke German natively, etc. But that's a prompted persona, and it works. But you can also build a persona like a custom GPT with the system prompt, and you can say, you're a research scientist, and this is your topic, and you like to answer with facts, and you like to find references and citations, and you put all that into a persona and then save it. And then when you go ask the scientist a question, you'll get that the LLM will be prompted with that persona as a way to respond. So you'll ask a question, and what happens is the LLM gets the system prompt, that's what it's titled as, which is the instructions, and then it gets your actual request. And so it looks at your request and it says, okay, and I was told to answer this way. And it does that.
And where do you build those personas?
For ChatGPT, again, if you just prompt it, you just make your prompt bigger and you just type, a paragraph up front and then ask your question. If you're going to save it and reuse it, then it's just like the custom GPT that I was telling you for making a Rachelle.
Okay.
Same thing, but then you give it a different name, and then your system prompt. And, if we just follow that example out, if I was going to make a research scientist system prompt, I might move the temperature down below 0.5, like a 0.4,
Sure.
right? I'm asking it to be a little more on the factual side, a little less on the creative side.
Sure. Great. Thank
I
you.
don't know. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah. I'm doing some of that right now. I haven't built a persona, but I do say act as so-and-so in this voice.
One of the values of the AI, you may have experienced this already, is to just have a sounding board to throw things at and have it respond and give you either suggestions or negations sometimes, right? It says, no, you don't want to do that or whatever. But if you give it a persona, it will answer as the persona is instructed. So you could give a persona a style, and then you could give a persona a different style. And then you could have what if scenarios with the different styles. And this sounds weird, but my point is, like, you're a fashion designer from Milan. This is what you're important to. This is your audience. This is why you care about. These are your influences historically. Now you've got a persona that's going to be the Milan, you've now reached everything I know about fashion in one sentence, but you get what I'm talking about, right? And then you could have another one that's very much, an LA kind of vibe that's new and modern and, hasn't existed since 2010, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know that would work, and I wouldn't be able to tell if it did, but you might find some fun with that from your own perspective. So I know I went off on a tangent, but I just thought of that. I was like, wow, that would be cool. I wonder if I could do that, because I've done it with other things. I just, I don't do a lot of fashion.
We all have our areas of expertise.
Yeah,
for
no,
sure.
completely. Right. It's not a negative. It's more of a just not even know when I have time. Okay. You said you had some questions, so let's see what you got.
Yeah. So my first question is, I've been experimenting with a site to help with finding customers, getting accurate customer contact information, and building a message that will resonate with
Okay.
potential new customers that will actually result in engagement. So I'd love your opinion, expertise on which are the AI platforms that you think are best for that. And is there one that can do it all, or is it a combination of a couple of them?
Yeah. So let's dig in a little bit there. When you said you're looking for a thing that gives you data about the customer, are you looking at like enrichment vendors that will enrich an existing, let's say, a name and an email address and turn it into a demographic profile? Is that what you're doing?
No. So looking for new customers. So usually I'll know that I want to target XYZ, and then who is the right person to contact, what is their contact information, and then
Okay.
taking it a step further, how to message in the right way so you actually get engaged with the customer and there's a discussion.
Sure. Okay. So I would wager something like a Zoom info kind of thing where you're able to say, hey, who's the XYZ buyer at company Z? Is that essentially what you're trying to get to at a high level?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then are you trying to do email outreach, or are you trying to connect with them on socials? What are you doing?
Yeah, usually it's email outreach or
Okay.
phone, although nobody picks up the phone anymore.
Yeah. And the problem with email, as we all know, is that
Yeah.
there's so much of it, hardly anybody pays attention to that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of avenues you can go down, and I think that there's certainly things that AI can do to assist, especially with writing the content for you, keeping the content fresh and relevant. There is actually quite a number of tools that will you identify the person that you want to talk to, and maybe you've got a social link for them or their LinkedIn or something of that nature,
Mhm.
and the tooling that you're talking about can help with giving you that. And then there's a research component where you can have an AI-driven tool will go uncover information about that person, and it'll be current. So what I mean by that is they'll find, their last few posts on LinkedIn or on Twitter, X, or, whatever, on Instagram. And basically, the automation systems will then engage with that person by responding to a message that they, a comment they left, or a post that they made on LinkedIn or whatever, and interact and engage in that way and attempt to become somebody that person might recognize as, oh, I've seen that person before. I've seen that name before. And the intention there is to try and warm up the outreach from being just complete cold. And I don't necessarily know that it doesn't work, but I'm not positive it provides as much of a response as folks would want it to. And the reason why is I think it's pretty obvious when that's happening. Most people can detect it, right?
Right.
I'll say it this way. If you interacted with someone over the course of a year, let's just pick LinkedIn to talk about it to make life easy. So over the course of a year, you saw someone's post, you commented on it occasionally, you might have reposted something that they posted and said, hey, this was a really good, Rachelle had a great take here. I really agree with this one. And, you engage with the rest of your audience and don't try to drag Rachelle in, right? If that was organic, and over the course of a year, you did that, 4 or 5 or 6 times, because the things that you were talking about were relevant, and it was all genuine. And then you ran into that person at an industry conference or event, and you said, hey, I've seen your stuff. I've commented on some of your stuff. I like some of the things you say. That would be a natural interaction, and you might have a conversation from there or not. Okay, great. But what the AI tools and what the other outreach things are trying to do is, I like one of your posts, I comment on one of your posts, I send you an email. And most people are going to say, right? Now, I'm not the pro at, AI generated outreach. That's not what I'm trying to suggest. But I don't think that I don't think it warms up the contact. I think that looks like, oh, they used a tool to do these other things and then sent an email.
So what do you suggest?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's an opportunity to engage with folks in a passive way and get your message out. Here's who I am, here's what we do, here's what we focus on, and wait for the individual to potentially engage or to see something and say, oh, that looked interesting, or, to reach out. Because that one, I feel like, in that direction, I feel like it would be more genuine. However, no one wants to sit around and just wait for someone to contact. So the next thing that I think makes sense is to show and display interaction like this as a podcast, or as blog posts, or as, video messages. Like, just take, for example, like clips that you put on, your socials about commenting intelligently about a particular topic or a thing you're passionate about, and have the ability to then take that content and push it or display it in front of the potential audience. So what that means is like boosted posts, or turning a post you make on a social into an ad that gets pushed so people see it more often and more frequently, and kind of growing that visibility from a network perspective. Not trying to become a complete social media influencer. I don't think that's not what I'm trying to recommend. But the idea that if you can gain a following, if you already have an audience, and you can push content to that audience and allow that to expand, then when you do outreach, people will say, wait a minute, I've seen some of her posts, I've seen comments that she was making and engaging with others, and I feel like that's a little bit more genuine and less off-putting. What I'm trying to get to is have a larger presence in the market, in the overall commentary on that topic or that subject matter. Become an expert or demonstrate expertise, and speak at conferences and conventions and things like that, or webinars or whatever's, because you want to be known from the perspective of, hey, this person knows what they're doing or what they're talking about in this topic. And then when you do the outreach, because I actually think the outreach should happen after, right? So you build a little bit of a presence and a following, and then start doing outreach. And you can say things like, hey, I'm Rachelle. You might have seen this. You might have seen me here, right? We follow some of the same folks. I'm interested in these things. And then it feels a little bit more, I know why this person's contacting me. Maybe there's something I should talk to about, right? Does that help at all?
Sure. Yeah, I'm familiar with all that stuff. I was just wondering if there were any AI tools that can help in the process.
Okay. So there are, and most of them would be things that like give you a workflow automation so that when you have content that you've created, it can push that content to multiple places. It can help you with what is the caption, what is the snippet, what is the description, what hashtags to use, all of those things. And there's a couple different tools we can talk about. One of the things that I think is most valuable there is you generate the content so that there's originality and consistency,
Sure, yeah.
right?
Yeah, sure.
And then you use the automation to push the content far and wide and try to reach the bigger audiences. And what, like one of the examples I'd give you is, let's say you're putting content on TikTok and Blue Sky and LinkedIn and Instagram. I don't know if your clientele are there or not. I'm making that up. But you notice over the course of, say 6 weeks, that you got a lot more interaction on Instagram, nothing on LinkedIn, and like a little bit on TikTok. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know that that's the answer. Then I would say, okay, now you pay Meta and you boost Instagram posts and you push content there. You keep pushing it everywhere else because you don't want to let off, but you pay to boost it on Instagram because that's where you've already got a decent audience and following. And so that will be exponential, right? You pay to boost a thing on LinkedIn and you only have 20 followers. Okay, it's not going to be worth your money, okay? The other side of that coin, though, is if you don't pay to boost it at all, you may not get enough followers to make a snowball and, all those games. So there's a bunch of tools that can do, content automation and social media management and stuff. And there's all sorts of different ones out there. Hootsuite, Metricool, those sorts of things. There's well-known software. That's no big deal. You can also use HubSpot and a few other things for CRM and other outreach stuff, etc. From an automation perspective, like workflow automation that has an AI slant, I would look at tools like Mind Studio or N8N. Have you ever heard of that one?
No.
It's just the letter N, the number 8, and the letter N, N8N. These are they have a lot of power to them, but you can use them relatively simply. And they're referred to as low-code or no-code tools, where you don't have to be a programmer. But
Okay.
for example,
Perfect for me.
yeah, no, that's what you want. And there's lots of tutorials you can find on YouTube and other places for here's how to, and you can say something like, let's take N8N, for example, just to keep it easy to talk about. You want to build a simple workflow that when you get an email, just as an example of a workflow, when you get an email, N8N is watching your mailbox with you. It sees the email. It looks at where it came from. It goes out and it does AI-based search and research on the person and the company. And then it makes a little summarization of that research, makes a little report, and sends that an email to you within 5 minutes of receiving the email. And why is that helpful? Well, if that email is a prospect email, you now have a little bit of, intelligence. In this particular case, it's not like, intelligence you had to go pay for, but it's who the person is. Are they a buyer? Are they a designer? Are they, right? That would be valuable to you before, because you would probably pick it up and go look for them, find them on socials, find them on LinkedIn. Who is this person? Same with the company. If you don't know the company, obviously, if you know the company, you're not going to do that. But the other way you could do that is if you do the outreach and prospecting and you get somebody's like, yes, I want to meet with you. I want to talk to you. Then you do the research bot. Let me learn everything there is to know about this person. What do they do? What's their career, etc. Again, so you don't walk into the conversation cold and you have all this useful research, which can help you what they probably are looking for, where to focus your pitch, those sorts of things. So let's say for the sake of discussion, you wanted to do that. So in N8N, you would want to come up with a system that was an email-based trigger. So it would be watching a mailbox, and when a message came in, it would know, hey, the message arrived, and it would then do the next step in the workflow. And the next step might be figure out who it came from, try to look up who that is, use their email address. And these are all tools that you just drag and drop, and you set some parameters on, and you drag lines between them, and they just go.
So I have a question on that because
Yeah, go ahead.
I have looked into tools that can help with email as well because I have an overwhelming amount of email every day.
Yes, we all,
Um,
yes.
but ultimately, I didn't feel comfortable with allowing somebody to look at all my email. It just
Yeah,
seems like it's a lack of privacy and
it is.
it can lead to potential issues.
Yeah, I totally agree. So the two ways you get around that is A, you make an email inbox for that kind of stuff and you call it info or outreach or, contact at the company, and you give N8N that. That's the first one. Second one is you have a email inbox that you've tied your agent to, and you forward only the messages that you want it to do something with to that inbox.
Okay.
So now you avoid the completely accurate, and thank you for saying, security risk of your
Yeah.
entire inbox being inside of
Yeah.
a tool,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
totally agree. Totally agree. It was an excellent question.
Okay. Good.
And you pick how you want to go about doing that. It's entirely up to you which way. I kind of like the model where I can forward the message at my discretion, and it's a dedicated mailbox so that if the person or the message didn't go to, info@SingenAI, whatever, I can just send it there and that the tool will go do the work I asked it to do. And so I can do that discretionally whenever I want.
Right. You have better
And
control. Hmm.
right. So I like that model. And like I said, I'm describing something that seems like there's a lot of steps and there's complexity to it. And there is at a high level, but if like you saw a really quick YouTube tutorial, you'd look and go, oh, well, I can make that happen. And you play with it for a little bit, you'd get there. You'd be fine.
What about workflow automation for following up with customers that we need information, or following up on with factories that we need information, following up material sourcing,
Yeah.
we need information, or purchase order due dates to take away some of the sort of administrative work that some of my team is doing so that they can focus on bigger things. Is
Yeah,
there a
and those
tool for
are,
that?
I would actually think the same tools. And what I would say to you is if you go down the path of picking, and I wanted to give you more, right? So N8N, Mind Studio, Make.com, and
Okay.
Zapier.com, they
I've
all
looked
have
at
AI
Zapier.
in.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And think of all of those as there's little widgets, and you tie the widgets together and you make a chain and you make a sort of a decision matrix that says if X, do widget Y, if Z, do widget C, or whatever. And then you configure each individual widget to do the pieces that you want. And then the workflow itself executes. And just think of it like a flow chart, right? Things just fall down through the system and they go off to this direction and they stop, or whatever. All of the tools I just gave you do the same things. What I would say to you is I don't think there's one tool that does any one of the things we're talking about so much better than another tool that I would jump around. What I would say, if the N8N style speaks to you and makes sense to you, right? Everybody's brains are different, so find the right thing. Then use that one for everything, so that you've got consistency and you're able to reuse components, and you're not spending as much time learning the tool as you are making your workflows, right? I wouldn't jump around to 4 different tools unless there was a very, very, very compelling reason that this tool does this thing so much better. But right now I don't think that that's the case. I actually think most of the tools, the reality is most of the tools are going to ask you for an LLM API key, and you're going to give it your API key from OpenAI. And so the end up AI capability is the same for every one of these tools. It's the same AI model you're using to talk to, right? So in the end, each widget is going to just ask the AI the question you told it to ask
Okay, so
and
on
then respond.
that note, is there a AI tool that does project management as well as automation? Because if we could figure out a tool that can integrate both of them, so keep track of samples, keep track of production, keep track of customers, and then build some automation into that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, there are AI project management tools for sure. I don't know of one that also does workflow automation.
Okay.
And the only reason is for that at the moment is I don't know of because that would be like a suite, right? It would be like asking if somebody has Word and Excel, because do completely different things, right? So project management and workflow automation are generally different genres. But what I would say is worth poking at is whether or not, do you think like a CRM, like a HubSpot would be able to do the project management piece you're talking about? Or is it missing things you need? I don't know if you've played with HubSpot or not.
I've never played with HubSpot, so I
Okay.
don't know. We played with Monday and
Monday.
Asana, and
Yeah.
they weren't detailed enough. There wasn't a place for us to put the details that we needed in there.
Yeah. And what you're going to find is that most of the off-the-shelf tools are going to be kind
Yeah.
of in the same boat, and they want customization, right? Zoho,
Yeah.
all those, they're all going to do the same thing. The reason I looked at HubSpot or think about HubSpot is that it's a CRM primarily.
Okay.
It can do other things, but it can also do outreach. So it can do marketing automation, sales automation. So it can actually be the landing pages where your social posts that have a call to action on them, they come back to a HubSpot based landing page. The person signs their, you ask for an email and a name and phone number, whatever, and then they get their giveaway, right? That's the call to action part. But then HubSpot puts them into the customer relationship management tool, and then can start an email cadence with them and start putting out custom messaging that you've developed that is a cadence for those folks. But you can also have a newsletter. Like all of that is part of HubSpot. But you can then manage the customers there and manage the deals and proposals and all the rest of that stuff. What I don't know, and you'll have to look, is if it can do other pieces that you need of once the sale happens and now you're turning the crank on doing the project delivery. I don't know if it has the rest of the pieces. I would have to tell you to go look at that because I don't have that much. I know I sound like a HubSpot salesperson at the moment, but I don't know enough to know if it'll follow through with the rest of that. But it would be worth looking at because of all the other things you're looking to do. And you can get HubSpot to actually push data to N8N to be used in an N8N workflow. So like I could take a workflow, connect to the HubSpot CRM, grab the customer information, grab some other details, customize a message and have those tools integrate. I know that would work really well.
Okay. I'll have to look into that.
Sorry, I'm giving you homework.
That's okay. I didn't expect to walk out with all the answers. So I have another question,
Yeah.
totally change the subject. Let's turn more to design. So
Okay.
there's two questions. I'll start with the first one is there a tool that we can use once we have finished an illustration in Illustrator, and so it's a CAD or an illustration, and make it come to life? So for example, if we illustrated a beach bag, could we make it come to life with a woman walking down the beach and sitting down on her lounge chair and taking out her suntan lotion? Is there a tool for that?
Yes. In fact, there's a number of them. There is a tool called a motion brush,
Okay.
and it's specifically an AI tool. But what the demo that I wanted to give you is Midjourney is an AI generation tool,
Yeah,
right?
we
Right.
played with it.
Okay. There's a capability that you can either add the Midjourney or you can take the Midjourney, like a photorealistic picture, and bring it into this tool that has like I said, a motion brush, and you paint over the Midjourney image what you want to animate.
Okay.
And then this motion brush turns it into, like, one of the really cool demos that I saw was a photorealistic picture of tree with leaves and rain, but it was a static photo. And
Okay.
the motion brush dragged over the trees and the rain, and then the leaves started to wave and the rain started to fall. Another one was just a static image of a pickup truck on a road, and it was like a field. And they brushed over a lot of it, and all of a sudden the truck was driving down the road with a whole bunch of dust picking up behind it, etc. The idea being that the motion brush can figure out what to animate in the scene. So if you generated the image with the thing that you wanted and put the pieces together, you could then prompt as well as rub with the brush where you wanted it. Like, you could drag the pathway and then prompt with text, have a woman holding his handbag walk down the pathway.
So you have to provide the entire illustration. So it has to be the beach scene plus the beach bag, rather than just the beach bag and a picture of the beach. It can integrate both of them together so that it's less time.
The one tool I was giving you, the motion brush tool, is for an existing image that you want to animate. You can also do, and there's a bunch of different, we'll call them video generation tools, where you can prompt the scene and have it actually create the scene. And you can then give it, hey, I want you to create a beach scene. It's dusk, the perfect hour, etc. And I want you to show, a woman in her early 30s with this particular attire holding this handbag, and throw in the image.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. So what
Yeah.
what are the name of those tools? Do you know?
No, I'll have to get the names for you and send it to you because I don't have them off the top of my head.
Got it.
I know that they exist. I want to make sure I get the right names.
Got it. Okay.
But I'll look for it. Hang on, I'm writing a note.
Okay. Okay.
I won't leave you hanging. I just got to figure it out.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure. I think we probably have time for one more.
Okay. So the other one I was going to ask you is trend forecasting, but I'm not sure that that is something that you're very familiar with. No.
I'm not tremendously familiar with it, but I will say this. The tools are getting better, but the AIs are not exceptional at math. They are language models at the moment. And so,
Right. No, I found major mistakes in a project where, I gave dimensions and I spent 3 hours trying to get it to understand what I needed. And I finally gave up because I
Yeah.
knew I wasn't going to get anywhere. But another one you might be able to help me with is how to extract data from one Excel spreadsheet to the next. Is there a tool for that?
Well, that's an interesting question. Yes, there is, but is that really the right thing to do? I guess the question I would ask you is this. You want to take a subset of information from sheet one and you want to move it to another workbook and do something with it? Is that your objective?
Well, to have it always talk. So as you're updating one spreadsheet and then you build another spreadsheet, it can extract data from
From the first one?
spreadsheet. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So Excel can do that natively.
Okay.
You just have to set up the first spreadsheet as a data source in the second spreadsheet, and it will literally open up that workbook and pull the data out of it when you run the second workbook.
Okay.
It's a function in Excel, and it's part of the data capability, and it can get data from sources. And in this particular case, it can get data from another workbook. You can ask the AI how to do that, and it'll tell you exactly how to set up the workbooks.
Sure.
So you can make a demo of that. Just take a small snippet of a sheet, make that workbook, save it somewhere locally, open up a new workbook, and go into the data and tell it to look at it. And it functions similar to looking at like another sheet in the same workbook. You know how you can just reference another sheet and, cells? It does a similar thing. It looks at the workbook name and then the sheets and the cells. It's
Yeah.
similar structure. And
I have
so,
done that. I have done that before. I was just wondering if
okay.
there's an AI tool that can extract and then maybe analyze. So, taking a step further to analyze it.
The analysis part will work, but again, if it's numbers, you can't trust that analysis today.
So there's no AI tool. I know ChatGPT doesn't do it, but there's no AI tool that knows like how to take historical sales data and analyze it. That's not.
Yeah, you can give it the data and you can ask it to do that, and it will do it. It's just that the numbers you can't rely on the numbers. That's the problem. And for the time being, from a reporting perspective, I would probably just use a regular reporting tool and not an AI generated tool and just have it do summarizations and other things. I'll make a note just to double check real quick, but I honestly think Microsoft just released Copilot for Excel for all the people that are in the Office 365 Copilot trial. But they said, don't use this if you are concerned about accuracy or factuality. And I questioned why they released it.
Yeah. I mean,
What did you do that
you have
for?
to be accurate in Excel, right? Otherwise,
It's like,
I mean, why?
okay, wait.
Yeah,
If
for sure.
if the vendor of Excel is telling you,
Yeah.
the AI is not going to be great here,
Yeah.
I don't know that we're gonna fix it
I'm definitely
ourselves.
not going to sign up for that trial. No, thank you.
Maybe it'll get better over time, but I was sort of like, I can't believe you did it that way. That's a weird. You're admitting
Yeah.
that it's just not good at that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay. All right. Well, look, we just chewed up a whole bunch of time without even knowing.
Okay, great.
That's
This is
great.
great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and giving me a very whirlwind
Yeah, indeed.
inside look into AI and how it can help. And now I have lots of homework to do.
Yeah, sorry for all the homework, but hopefully
That's
there was
great.
something
No, it's
useful in
great.
there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. Thanks a
Okay.
lot.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Bye-bye.